Happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Hi, I'm Elisa.
And I'm Diane.
And you're listening to The Delicious Dish on National Public Radio. You're not really listening to National Public Radio. We just like saying that.
Yes, we do. But happy Valentine's Day, everybody.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day. Yeah, so on today's show, we're going to talk about love,
relationships,
and
sex.
Yes, we are.
We have a lot to talk about today. We had a lot of questions that came to us through Facebook, and one of the questions was, what's the first thing that attracts you to someone?
That's a good question.
Right. I know for me, if I see someone across the room and there's a man and he's got a really good smile and I see his eyes, that's very attractive to me.
I like a man with a big ass.
Oh, and if he's got a hairy back, that's really good.
Yeah, that's good too. I'm going to agree with that. Flashing a dazzling smile and a person that's playful, as long as they're not creepy. And you have to be attracted to the person, right? Let's be real.
Oh, it's all about chemistry. And chemistry can be something that's just, you don't have to know the person. You can see that person from across the room and feel a chemistry.
Sometimes someone just stands out among all the others, and not necessarily because of a chiseled jaw or whatever. Just sometimes it's just something about another person. You can't even quite put your finger on it yet. But
chemistry to me is more of a feeling, where you can actually see somebody, get a look, and you feel a chemistry.
Right.
And if that person actually touches you, forget it.
Yeah.
It goes right through your body.
Right.
And then when it comes to the kiss, that's it.
Right.
To me, it's all about the kiss.
Sometimes there is that person that just has this effect on your body.
Right.
And for girls, like, you might get all giggly and nervous and that kind of thing, but it is quite astounding what can happen. What makes a person even like another person? And I feel that it's because they make you feel like you matter.
Absolutely.
You know, they're actually interested in what you have to say. They're kind, courteous, complimentary. You feel safe around them. You know, they're making you laugh. And you say to yourself, I really like that person. You know, I feel good being around this person.
Oh, it's all about the feel.
Right.
Because if you don't feel that person, if that person, like you said, is rolling their eyes as you're talking to them, then you're not feeling liked. And you, therefore, are not going to like them.
Right.
Because you know they don't like you, so.
But now when you get into talking about love, what's the difference between like and love? And I think a different level of caring comes into play. Like, you could like a person just to hang out with them and stuff, but when you start actually caring, you get to know a person and you actually start to care that they had a bad day or they told you what's going on in their life, and you want to ask about that because you actually care again. And now they like you because they matter to you. You feel that matter thing.
Right, that's when the like will turn into the love.
Right. But then, what makes a person in love? What makes a person fall in love? The romantic love, and that's what we're going to talk about today.
Right, and I think that has to do with the chemistry. Because if you don't have the chemistry, you can love somebody, but if you have that chemistry and that feel in your body, if you kiss somebody and you feel that tingly through your body, then you feel like that has gone from love to being in love.
Right.
Well, the way I look at it is, if a guy kisses me and that kiss makes me wet, there you go. That's chemistry. That's chemistry.
That's chemistry, baby. Hang on to your balls, folks. We're going to get in this pretty well. So I have to ask you, Elisa, movie stars, rock stars, something like that. Give me an example of somebody that from across the room that would have that effect on you.
Yes. Keanu Reeves.
Ooh, okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually, Keanu Reeves young and Keanu Reeves older.
For me, I always had a thing for young Russell Crowe.
Okay.
Very, not so much anymore. I know that he just has this manly sex appeal that just did it for me. Not anymore, but there's an example. That's
Right.
me. But there's a number of people. But yeah, there's nothing more exciting than finding somebody that has that effect on you. If they
Absolutely.
return, if they happen to feel the same way. And of course, unfortunately, sometimes they don't.
Right, because I do believe that you can think you have chemistry with somebody, but I think you're the only one that has the chemistry.
Yeah.
And the other person doesn't have the chemistry.
Look, that's what we're going to talk about. Love is
Right.
great. It's like, it's what we all strive for, right? You fall in love with somebody and build your own life. It's nice to have a companion, possibly even a lifetime companion. That's what I think a lot of people are looking for. A lot of people want to start a family with such a person, but just the love thing alone, the caring and all the good stuff that goes along with that.
And what goes along with all that?
What goes along with that?
Sex.
Sex goes along with all of that. Let's talk about
Let's
sex.
talk about sex, baby.
Okay, what do you want to know?
Well,
This calls for a drink.
yeah, that sounds good. I'll drink to that.
I'll drink to that. Okay. Sex. Now that's a tricky business, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, it is. We're drawn to it. It's a natural, again, the chemistry thing, when you're with another person that you really like.
It's natural. You want to have sex with that person.
Yes, you might want to get to know them first. You know.
Yes, that would be good.
Now we're talking as if you're assuming the person is looking for a partner, not a one-night stand. That's a different animal.
We'll talk about that on another show.
Yeah, we'll talk about that on another show. We're talking about love, it's Valentine's Day. So if you're kind of looking, if you're in the mode of looking for a partner and you found somebody that you like, and now you're getting to know them and you're starting to care about them and maybe even falling in love, okay? And if the chemistry is there, that's even better. So now I think men and women have a little different idea about sex. It's very mysterious in a lot of ways, and in other ways it's not. It depends on the people.
What do men and women actually expect out of sex?
Well, for men, let's be real. For men, it's pleasure. It's right there, it's pleasure. It's going to be pleasure. For women, it's also pleasure,
Right.
but it's a little more complicated for women. You know why? Because there's risk involved. There's risk involved for women. Why? Because they can get pregnant. And that'll change their entire life forever and ever. So there's risk involved. And in the old days, reputation. You know, women have to have a little more thought goes into it before they start undressing. Not all women, but generally speaking, I think the difference between men and women, I think a little more thought goes into it. Because for men, they're pretty sure they're going to have a good time, and women might not be so sure, to be honest with you, and they're going to think about it. There's other things to consider.
So do you agree then, you meet someone and you've got this great chemistry and you decide you're going to have sex.
Okay, you're okay with it.
You're okay with this.
Right.
And the ultimate goal of your sex is what?
You know, you care about the other person and you want them to enjoy themselves and you're enjoying it. But yes, the ultimate goal, I guess, as the animals that we are, is orgasm. Okay.
So what about orgasm?
It's probably the absolute greatest bodily sensation next to a really great slice of pizza. No, I mean, food has its place of enjoyment, but when it comes to a bodily sensation, it doesn't get any better than an orgasm.
Right. But does everyone reach orgasm?
I think everyone's capable of
Yes.
reaching orgasm.
I think so,
That's
too.
That's for sure.
I think so.
But there are a lot of questions about that people don't talk about. And things on TV shows and in movies, everyone seems like they're reaching an orgasm when they have a love scene, right? But
but are they really? So one of our male viewers wrote in and asked, why do women fake orgasms?
You know what? Take a look at this.
Just one little problem.
Sexual?
Yeah. Well, I've never really felt confident in one particular aspect.
Below the equator?
Yeah.
Nobody does. You know, nobody knows what to do. You just close your eyes, you hope for the best. I really think they're happy if you just make an effort.
I don't know. Last time I got the tap.
You got the tap.
You know, you're going along, you think everything's all right, and all of a sudden you get that tap. You know, it's like, all right, that's enough, you're through.
The tap is tough.
It's like the manager coming out and asking you for the ball.
Yeah. Well, maybe she just wanted to move on to other business.
No, this wasn't moving on. I got the hook. I wish I could get a lesson in that.
It's a very complicated area.
You could go crazy trying to figure that place out.
It's a hazy mystery.
Anyway, I think everything else is okay. Unless, of course, she's faking.
Who's faking?
Nothing.
Faking what?
Nobody's faking.
Orgasm?
She's not faking.
How do you know?
I know. I can tell. It's one of my powers. Why'd you ever fake?
Of course.
Really?
You fake?
On occasion.
And the guy never knows?
Yeah.
How can he not know that?
Because I was good.
I guess after that many beers, he's probably a little groggy anyway.
You didn't know. You didn't know.
Are you saying
I think I'll have a piece of cake.
with me?
Well,
You faked with me?
yeah.
You faked with me?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
You faked it.
I faked it.
That whole thing, the whole production, it was all an act.
Not bad, huh?
What about the breathing, the panting, the moaning, the screaming?
Fake, 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 fake.
I'm stunned. I'm shocked. How many times did you do this?
All the time.
All the time.
Maybe Karen is faking.
She didn't have any?
No, none.
She faked them all.
Faked them all.
Well, so she faked them. So what?
But the woman had an orgasm under false pretenses. That's sexual perjury. How did she do it? She's like Meryl Streep, this woman.
Well, that was a very funny and memorable episode of Seinfeld, but we're here and we're talking about sex, so we have to address it. What's all this faking about? Why would anybody fake an orgasm?
Oh, God. Ooh.
Yes! Yes! Oh! Oh! Oh!
I'll have what she's having.
Elisa took a little break, so I'm going to take it from here. The answer is because they don't teach anything in school about orgasms. When we're in elementary school, they take the boys aside and the girls aside. They would teach about the changes their bodies are going to be going through during puberty. And they also teach the basics of how the reproductive system works, okay? But that's pretty much about as far as it goes. And since sex has always been considered a taboo subject, it's inappropriate for discussions because you're dealing with bodily functions. Most people are embarrassed by it. This ends up meaning, generally speaking, that your parents, your siblings, your friends, they know just as much as you know about it because none of them were taught. So everyone gets influenced by mainstream things like Hollywood movies. If the storyline has something to do with sex and romance, poems, lyrics to songs, and pornography. That's where people gather, you know, they put their two and two together and they draw their own conclusions from things they're seeing. But the makers of movies, song lyrics, and pornography, they didn't get this kind of education either, and they know as much as we do. So they're just putting forth all these images and ideas, but no one really knows what's going on. Generally speaking, I think that it's safe to say that the majority of people out there believe that sex is kissing, fondling, exploring each other's erogenous zones, which could mean oral pleasuring, all going towards the big finish, which is sexual intercourse. That's how you create a baby. And because there's no deep information about this, everyone thinks that's the big finish, and Hollywood would have you believe that when it's all over, the happy couple are both smoking a cigarette, they're basking in the glow of the moment afterwards. Both people reached climax during this time. That's what everyone would have you believe. Generally speaking, this is what I think people think. It's what I used to think. But what this implies is that if sexual intercourse is the big finish and both, the man and the woman are both totally satisfied and reached a climax, it was a total success, that would imply, excuse me for being graphic, but I'm going to get into it. That would imply that a penis being rubbed in a back and forth motion inside a vagina brings about an orgasm eventually, okay? The blood's building, arousal, sensitive nerves, it's building and building, and just this back and forth motion on the penis is going to result in an orgasm, an explosion, ecstasy, okay? But because of Hollywood and these images we have, that would imply that for the woman, if the inside of her vagina is also being rubbed in a back and forth motion, and it's building and building and a release happens, she's going to experience an orgasm as well, right? I'm afraid that's the problem. You see, there is no such thing as a vaginal orgasm. But the mechanism, the fibers, the nerve endings, the tissue needed to do that is all located in the clitoris, or clitoris, however you want to pronounce it. And hopefully we all know where the clitoris is. It's at the top of the vulva. And the external portion of it only. There is an underneath bulbs that run underneath, but that doesn't feel anything like the top, the visible part of the clitoris. That's where all the action is, okay? Trust me on that. During intercourse, when there's penetration, it's hard to get that included into the fun because of its location. It's possible, but it's kind of difficult. And to be honest with you, as long as we're being honest and graphic here, unfortunately, even direct stimulation from a partner onto the clitoris, even with direct stimulation by mouth or hand or whatever, according to statistics, only maybe 40% of the time that's going to result in orgasm too. Why? Because it's not a simple back and forth motion like what a man needs for him to achieve orgasm. Process. You have to get on that nerve, it has to be stimulated a certain way, and your partner could be right on it, but the problem is that sometimes the nerve wants to go a little bit to the left or a little bit to the right, and there's no way the partner is going to know what you're feeling. He could be right on it, be the best lover in the whole wide world, but the feeling moves around a little bit and women have to adjust. They can feel, they know what to do. And there's no way, so she might start giving you directions, oh, go this way, go that way. But now there might be so much talking and she's worried that, is his neck, hurting him in this position or whatever, that sometimes it's just not going to happen.
You get that tap.
Okay. I'm just being honest with you, okay? This is the way it works. Do we have orgasms? Absolutely. And you know what? When women are by themselves, 95% of the time, they're not worried about anything. They're not, do I look too fat? Is his neck hurting him? Any of that stuff, they're not worried about a thing. They're completely relaxed. And 95% of the time, women will have an orgasm, practically every single time. But when you're with a partner, the feeling moves around a little bit. It happens, absolutely. But it's just not as straightforward and it's just not as easy. But by the vagina, absolutely not. It's not going to happen. So, how do I know this? Well, aside from, hello, being a woman myself, I spoke to a number of women and I did the research. And it's a fact of life that just isn't taught in class, and your parents and nobody else knows about this either. Obviously there'll be some exceptions, but generally speaking, nobody knows about this. What that means is that there's like billions of women walking around out there that are under the impression that they're supposed to experience orgasm from the act of creating a child, from the act of intercourse with their partner. And they're all walking around thinking that there's something wrong with them. But they're not going to talk about it, they're not going to ask questions, because it's a taboo subject that everyone's embarrassed about, and the information just isn't out there unless you really go looking for it. And there's a lot of bad information on the internet too. I'm going to clear all that up in a moment. But another problem is ego. So many people, if you're talking with your friends, you're having a few drinks and you're hanging out with your friends and sex does come up and you feel safe talking to your friends about it, it's just human nature. People tend to want to brag about sex. Everyone wants everyone to think that they're having the greatest sex. We're the hottest couple. We're having the hottest sex. No one has sex as great as we do. People just want other people to think that's what's going on. But the truth is, there is no such thing as a vaginal orgasm. It's simply not possible. So let me get into it, let me explain. Okay, I'll do it this way. When a healthy man's healthy sperm successfully reaches and penetrates a healthy woman's healthy egg, immediately genetic information starts getting transferred. You now have a fertilized egg, which is now called a zygote. It's going to start dividing. It goes through something called mitosis, and a new life is going to form. About 5 or 6 days later, it reaches a point where now it's called an embryo. What is an embryo? An embryo contains all of the information, has everything it needs to create a human being. There's an area in an embryo that is going to give rise to a heart, circulatory system. There's an area that's going to give rise to the brain, spinal column, all of the organs, stomach, intestines, liver, all of that. There's also an area that's called the urogenital sinus. So this area is going to give rise to the urinary system and the sexual reproductive organs. Now, within this area, there are gonads and an area called the genital tubercle. When the egg became fertilized and the genetic information was being transferred, a female has an XX chromosome. A male has an XY chromosome. When the genetic information is being transferred and doing its thing, the male is either going to give his X chromosome to her X or his Y chromosome to her X. About 6 or 7 weeks later, the chromosomes go into action and send the message whether it's going to be male or female, okay? When it's decided that this new life is going to become a male, the genital tubercle, which is equipped with erectile tissue, a whole ton of really sensitive nerves that are very responsive nerves, and the mechanism and the whole design to bring about an orgasm. That's what's in the genital tubercle. If it's going to be male, the genital tubercle starts forming into a penis. Okay? The gonads, if it's a male, the gonads are going to give way to testicles, which is where the man develops his sperm. If it's decided that this is going to become a female, the genital tubercle starts forming into a clitoris. Again, complete with erectile tissue, a whole ton of nerves, most amount of nerve endings in the entire female body, and the mechanism and everything very similar to a penis because it's coming from the same place, the same material, the same mechanism. You know, it's designed to bring about an orgasm. That's what it is.
Did you know that the clitoris is literally exactly like the penis in men? I'm Dr. Rena Malik, urologist and pelvic surgeon, and today we're going to be talking about 5 things I bet you didn't know about female genitalia. So the first thing I bet you didn't know is that the clitoris is like the penis. In fact, they are homologs, which means embryologically, the clitoris and the penis were the exact same thing in the fetus. And as they differentiate into a female and a male fetus, they then develop a clitoris clitoris or a penis. And they both have the exact same structures, essentially. In fact, for a long time, people thought that the clitoris had about 8,000 nerve fibers. A recent study published out of the Oregon Health Sciences University looking at clitoral tissue under microscopes found that it has an average of 10,000 neurons in the clitoris, meaning that it's highly sensitive and probably the only organ that's ever been identified that's made purely for pleasure purposes.
Okay? And then the gonads are going to give rise to ovaries in a woman, and that's where a woman's eggs will be released from. That's where her eggs are going to be kept. So yes, a female is born with X amount of eggs already in her ovaries, but that won't do anything until she reaches puberty, where the pituitary gland is going to turn the sexual function on because the body has matured enough to handle it. And once a month she will release an egg from this ovary, and the next month from the other ovary, and that'll be the whole story of her whole life until she reaches menopause. And menopause means that she no longer has any eggs, she can no longer have a baby, okay? But when she does have a baby, where does the baby grow? Inside the uterus. So you have the ovaries, you have a uterus, and you have the vagina, right? Why doesn't a man have a uterus? When a female embryo, now we know it's going to be a female, she will continue to develop, and she will develop a uterus and a vagina, the whole system. A man would also too, but there's a thing called the SRY gene, or I think it's also known as the Müllerian inhibiting factor, that turns that off. Otherwise, he would develop a uterus. She needs an internal system because she's the one that's going to carry the baby. So we know how to get turned on, we know what feels good, we have the sex drive, and we know how it's going to happen. The sperm's made in the testicle, it's going to come out through the penis while he has an orgasm, which, by the way, ejaculation of semen and an orgasm are two different things. Did you know that? 98% of the time, they happen simultaneously. They're actually two different things. So a man could ejaculate and not have an orgasm, or he can have an orgasm and not ejaculate. You know what this means? This means that men can fake orgasms too. They can. But usually those two things happen at the same time. So when he has an orgasm, there's evidence that he had an orgasm. For women, she's not ejaculating anything, there's no evidence. So there's no way to know if a woman had an orgasm or not. She knows it, but there's no telling tale sign of. But going back to the uterus is pretty much a nest. It's an area that's going to, again, the fertilized egg, the zygote, is going to implant itself in the lining of the uterus, which the lining is going to get thicker and get a good blood supply going and keep the baby warm and protected. And a whole bunch of hormonal changes are going on in the woman that her body has to accommodate, all of this going on, but that's what the uterus is for. So what's the vagina then? Well, once a baby grows, it needs to get from the uterus to the outside world. The vagina is a muscular canal that leads from the vulva to the cervix. What's the vulva? Well, when you're looking at a naked woman and you see her area down there, the outside genital area of a woman, what you're really looking at is called a vulva. You can't see the vagina, it's internal. So to wrap up, we now know that the vagina is nothing more than a passageway from the outside world to the uterus, and its purpose is for reproduction only. Unfortunately, pleasure is not involved in that area. As explained, the genital tubercle, which turns into a penis and a clitoris, there's your pleasure zone. But Diane, what about the G-spot? The G-spot. There is no G-spot. I'm sorry. You're going to see that all over the internet, G-spot, G-spot, and it's going to, even medical things are going to talk about the G-spot, because a doctor, Dr. Grafenberg, who decided that there's an area inside the vagina that's more sensitive than other areas. Well, scientists have dissected numerous female cadavers, that's a dead body. The findings were there is no erectile tissue, there are no nerve endings, there's no mechanism, because the mechanism, when I say mechanism, blood has to build up, rise up, and touch certain nerves, and then it gets to a point where it hits a particular nerve, and then there's the climax, the you know, that whole thing. There's no mechanism inside the vagina. There might be a sensitive spot, but there's no mechanism, no. In fact, they discovered there are less nerve endings in the vagina than anywhere else in that whole area. Not that it has feeling, trust me, but there's less nerve endings there, and they think that the reason for that is so that childbirth doesn't actually kill the mother. So it's actually a less sensitive spot than all the other stuff. So Diane, are you telling me that my girlfriend, my wife of 30 years, has been faking orgasms the entire time? Well, if she's indicating through release-sounding sound effects or outright telling you in detail about how great her orgasm was, or telling you how many orgasms she had from your active intercourse together, then yes, I'm afraid she's faking it. Should you be upset about that? Absolutely not. In fact, quite the opposite. You see, let's go back to what everyone thinks is supposed to happen. There's no education. Nobody knows these things. You don't see it in movies. It's not talked about, right? It's a taboo subject. It's embarrassing. She thinks she's supposed to have a vaginal orgasm, and she thinks you think she's supposed to have a vaginal orgasm, but she knows it's not happening. If this woman is crazy about you, she is completely attracted to you. She thinks you are handsome and sexy and fun to be with, and you have a lot in common, and you're like her dream partner. You know, this is like the most amazing thing. This girl really likes you, loves you, and everything. Then the last thing on earth she's going to want to do is indicate a problem. Because a lot of sex also has to do with the brain. Like if people are worried about stuff, or they're uptight about stuff, if they're going through any kind of stress, that's a great way to kill the whole thing, right? If she's crazy about you and you're her dream man, do you really think she wants to introduce a problem into the scenario? If she were to say to you, you know, I really enjoy being with you, but it's not happening for me. What do you mean? Well, I'm not having an orgasm that way. Okay, now you got this big issue on the table. Well, there's got to be something wrong with her, right? Well, let's try again. No, I didn't come again. She's going to be honest with you now. No, didn't happen. It feels good and everything, but I'm not having an orgasm. Well, that's probably going to mean a trip to the doctor now. And let's ask all the women out there, how much do you love a pelvic exam? An internal exam. So now you're going to have to bring up, well, everything otherwise is working right, but I'm not reaching orgasm. People are very uncomfortable talking about that sort of thing, and now you're telling her she has to do this. So the doctor gives all kinds of tests and everything and says, nope, you're perfectly normal. It must be, you must be too nervous or uptight about something. Let's send you to a psychiatrist. So now she has to get her head examined because maybe she's too uptight, maybe it's her religious upbringing, maybe she's uncomfortable, maybe her mother said something. And again, people, I am not talking about people that have been traumatized in their life. If a person went through childhood or even later some kind of trauma and they have a different approach to sex because of the trauma, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about people that have had a typical upbringing where nothing terrible happened to them. A boy meets girl, have the same kind of education, which in this department is nothing, and they go off and get married or they're dating or whatever. I'm just talking about normal circumstances, okay? But now she needs a head examined because maybe she's too uptight, maybe this, maybe that. The psychiatrist tells her, no, you seem very balanced, normal, you know, everyone has their ups and downs, but you seem to be okay. Well, what does that mean then? Well, that means it's the guy's fault, right? He's not doing it right. How many different ways are there to go in and out of a vagina? You could be in this position, that position, but it's the same back and forth motion, right? So how many ways is there to do that wrong? But, okay, maybe the guy's not big enough. Or how many men worry about the size of their penis, their performance, because that's common stuff that you hear all the time, right? Because they think that they're responsible for giving the woman an orgasm by their size and by their girth and how fast and slow and different positions and everything. Now you're introducing a problem that, you know, she's like, well, I'm perfectly normal, it's got to be you. So, okay, it's me. I'm not big enough or whatever. So now he's got to walk around thinking, wow, I never pleased my woman, there's something wrong with me, I'm not good at sex, or my penis is inadequate or something like that. What a great way to destroy a relationship. Because now, if the woman says, oh, don't worry, everything's okay, or I don't need to come that way. Now the next time they go to the bedroom and they get started and they love each other and everything's good, it's in both of their minds that there's an issue here. And when it comes to penetration, the intercourse part, well, that makes her nothing more than a human trampoline, doesn't it? Go ahead, honey. We both know I'm not going to experience an orgasm from this, so go ahead, do your thing. Let me know how long you're going to be. Does anybody want that kind of thing? Like once this becomes a mental problem, he might not even be able to get an erection anymore. That's how turned off, that's how delicate this subject is. Is it really worth bringing all this issue and emotional problem and destroying a perfectly good relationship over something like this? Or is it better for the 8, 12, 15, 22 seconds it takes for an orgasm to happen, for just those amount of seconds, she gives the breathing sound, that that feeling of release, that sound effect of release, to let him know it's okay. Now listen, this is extremely important, okay? While we just learned that no orgasm is possible through vaginal stimulation, okay, we know that. When a woman chooses a man to have sex with, okay, she wants to be with that man because she's extremely attracted to him, looks-wise, personality-wise. He's like her other half. She wants to be with this man. It means that he's pushing all her buttons. What I mean by that is the sound of your voice, the look in your eye, the feel of your touch, the pheromones, the chemical response that happens. Once we're aroused, once a man and a woman of their choosing decide to get down, they're not the same person they are when they're washing the dishes or taking the dog for a walk. Once you're in a state of arousal, this animal thing comes over and you find yourselves in the throes of passion. She is now consumed in passion and loving every second of being with you. She's going wild, okay? It's a whole different state of being, and it's just as true for women as it is for men. So when it comes to the moment that you're now going to have intercourse, this is very pleasurable, completely erotic. It's a gigantic turn on. It's you and the person that you're crazy about, you're connected, and it's just an exhilarating experience. No one is faking that. Now, let me be clear. If she wants to be with you, if she's choosing to be with you, and everything is amazing, she's not faking any of that, okay? All the moaning, all the heavy breathing, it's all a normal response that people have when they're in that state of arousal, when the animal part of them takes over. They'll say things that they don't normally say. They'll talk dirty. They're caught up in the moment, and it's great. For those 8, 10, 12, 15 seconds during all the gyrations of the whole thing, that's all real. But maybe for that 10-second, 12-second thing, she might be inclined to make the sound effect of a release, or maybe even if she doesn't, but when it's done and both are like a little sweaty and exhausted, you know, that feeling, whatever, she might blurt out and say that she had an orgasm, or that was the greatest moment I ever had in my life. I've never felt more alive in my life. Oh my God, you are amazing. All that kind of stuff. Even though she didn't actually have an orgasm that way, maybe she did before, or maybe she will after, whatever, due to the clitoris. But even if she didn't, whatever, if she's telling you she's loving every second of it, believe her, because you gave evidence that you had an orgasm. There's no evidence coming from her, right? So if she thinks that it might make you feel better to know that this was a huge success and that she's never been happier in her life, she might come out and say that just to make sure that you know everything's amazing. There's no faking, there's no making a fool out of you. None of that is going on, okay? If she wants to be with you. Did I make that clear? So please, don't be mad at me for telling you about this, because I didn't make up the rules. I'm just giving the information because I think it makes it better. I honestly do, because women walk around thinking there's something wrong with them. Men, if they're getting a feeling that she's not having an orgasm, well, maybe I'm not. Some men might not even want to have sex at all because they're afraid of being humiliated or being laughed at or because they're too small or something like that. Let's talk about that for a second. Does size matter? Well, yes and no. It doesn't matter for having an orgasm. It doesn't. It does not matter for having an orgasm. But when intercourse does feel good, if you're with someone that you want to be with, if it's not being forced upon you and you're really into the person that you're with, it feels good. Again, it's erotic. I said all this already. But she wants to feel you. If you happen to have been born with a very small penis, she wants to feel something, but it's not that important because she's not going to have an orgasm anyway. So don't make a big deal out of it in your head, okay? And if you're too big, well, ask any woman out there. Being in pain because you're just too friggin' big for her and you're ripping her apart is not a good thing. You don't want to be in pain, but you want to feel something because you do enjoy having intercourse. It's all real. Just those couple of seconds that she's leading you to believe that she had an orgasm, or she's telling you, and maybe even going on about it, she's just getting carried away because she is completely exhilarated. She's having the absolute time of her life, thanks to you. You should not be upset about this. Don't be mad at me for telling you about it, and I'm sorry if people think I'm blowing the whistle on, but sex is a wonderful thing. I got to keep saying this. If you choose to be with this person, okay, that means you want to do it. You're not the same person once you're turned on. Passion, love, it all feels good, and hopefully you're having an orgasm, okay? Because you certainly can. It's not that easy. We went over this already, but here's another way to know that you have nothing to worry about, even if she is faking it. If she's initiating the sex, if she's showing up in pretty undergarments and saying wild things to you, enjoy that. If you're now getting all angry and twisted over this because finding out that your partner had been faking it with you for a long time or even once or twice, if that's a deal breaker, a game changer for you, break up with her. Find somebody that you don't have as much in common with, that isn't really suitable for you, that you don't get along as well or is more difficult, whatever. Pick somebody else, but know this, that person's not going to have an orgasm that way either. Well, maybe she won't lie to me. Well, if she didn't see this video and you're doing it, chances are she will, because she really likes you. And she doesn't want you to think there's something wrong. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? Don't make a big deal out of this, and don't destroy a relationship over it. But something just occurred to me that you should know. There could be another reason why a woman would fake an orgasm with you. Maybe it's not that your pheromones and the feel of your touch and the look in your eye. Maybe she's not that into you, but she's going to go through all this and tell you how great it was anyway. It could be because one of our friends wrote a question to the Delicious Dish and wanted to know about gold diggers. Why would a woman be with a man that she's not in love with? Well, the expression gold digger is because she needs something out of it. She's going into this relationship with someone maybe she's not interested, not attracted to, not in love with, or maybe she is in love with him, but she's faking her orgasms because she needs someone to pay her rent. Maybe she's spoiled, grew up and mommy and daddy took care of everything and she never had to work a day in her life, and she wants a new house. She wants you to buy her a car. She wants a steak dinner this Saturday night. She wants to go see a show. She needs clothes. She wants jewelry. So she's with someone that she's not that crazy about because she never found her dream man, and she knows she's not going to have an orgasm, so she's going to go through all this stuff. Might as well be with somebody that makes a lot of money, or at least has more money than she has, because she's looking for a meal ticket. Maybe she's been single for a long time, can't find a perfect match for her, and her biological clock is running out and she wants to have children, so she's going to take anybody. She needs something. please forgive me, but I'm going to bring up prostitutes now just to prove a point. But here's a situation where the woman knows she's not going to have an orgasm. She's going to take part in things that it can be really, really disgusting, okay? But she's going to do it in exchange for money, you know? And during the process, she might say, oh yeah, baby, you're hot, I'm hot for you, baby, and go through all these gyrations and fake an orgasm and say all these things that she knows you want to hear so that you have an ultimate experience, and then pay up. Or you're going to get your knees broken. You know, something like that. It's kind of along the same lines, not severe as that, but if a woman needs you for something, again, pay her bills, buy a car, she needs a husband, something like that. This isn't a definite, but she may be faking an orgasm because, again, she doesn't want to upset the situation. She wants this relationship to work out because she needs you. And if she were to tell you the truth or just lay there, you're not going to stick around for that. Nobody wants to, you know, be with a corpse or a human trampoline. That's not any fun to go into it with that sort of thing. So she's going to go through all the motions because she needs to get something out of it. You know, I'll give you a good time, but you got to do this for me. I'm just saying that's a possibility. That's where the expression gold diggers come from. Usually it's high end. They're going for doctors, lawyers, rich people, because why not? You know, if some older man can get a 20-year-old and she's not really the slightest bit interested in him, but he makes a ton of money and she's going to live really well. He's walking around thinking, I'm having hot sex with a young girl, or I'm having hot sex with any woman. And he's all happy, and she's like, yeah, right, buy me this, I want this, I want that. That could be what that's all about. So how do you know you're with someone that's being genuine and not just trying to get something from you? That's something you have to figure out for yourself. As you date this person, you get to know them. And if you start to see behavior, you might be with someone that's very attractive and a lot of fun to be with, but as you're getting to know them, if they're pulling away, you have some family stuff you have to do, and they don't want any part of it. They're making excuses, or someone just doesn't seem terribly trustworthy and all that stuff. That's the ultimate thing you want. You want somebody that's like, that you're attracted to, hopefully, but deep down inside, you're really looking for a best friend, someone that you look forward to hanging out with, and then the sex is wonderful. If they're not looking for anything from you, if time shows that they can take care of themselves and they don't have any ulterior motives, if you see that and they're a good person and you can count on them and rely on them and they're trustworthy and all that stuff, hold on to that person. Because, and even if they're faking it, they had their reasons for it. They're not trying to make a fool out of you. They don't want to leave any doubt in anyone's mind because there is no evidence of it, and that's all that that's about. But if a person starts showing you signs that they're not in for the long haul, you can't really count on them, they're a coward, they run away, you don't really want that person. And if you just found out today that your person has been faking, and don't forget what I said before, men can fake it too. Women, girls, should you be upset if you were to find out that your guy was faking? No. Because that's just a matter of how the blood passed over the nerves, or whatever is actually happening during an orgasm. All the nerves get heightened, and then something happens, and then there's like this feeling. Sometimes it just doesn't roll over the nerves the right way. You could be by yourself, and it's building, and then you know you had the release, but that orgasm was very weak, if you even felt it at all. And other times, oh my God, it's just the greatest feeling in the whole world. But it's just a matter of how the nerve endings. Is it anybody's fault? No. I wish sex was easier, but it is what it is. Again, I'm just going to wrap up this section by saying that if you have a person that you really love and you're crazy about, and the sex is good and you're both enjoying it and there's no reason to think anything's wrong, hang on to it, because it just doesn't get any better than that.
Diane, that was very informative, and I agree with everything that you just said.
Thank you.
I would like to add that if you're not doing it already, just be open with each other and talk about what makes you feel good.
Right, because we all want what I call healthy love. Because as amazing as love is, it can also be tragically devastating in a lot of cases. Because along the way, chances are you're going to be rejected. And that's a really tough pill to swallow. But if people would just be considerate, you can end a relationship and leave that other person's dignity intact. Leading a person on when you already know that this person is maybe not the right one for you, leading them on and playing games, it's just downright cruel, and you're going to hurt them badly. And you know something? When you have emotional pain, I don't think people realize, but the same areas in the brain light up from emotional pain as if I stabbed her in the arm right now. Pain is pain. The body's response is the same. Their blood pressure goes up. They might have heart palpitations, digestive issues, trouble sleeping. And if you don't get your REM sleep, your body's not repairing itself. People can get very, very sick. So if you're playing games with someone and lying to them, and be a grown-up, there's no excuse for that.
In other words, don't be an asshole.
That's good advice for everybody.
We actually had a few more questions that were sent to us.
Yep. One was from Josie wanting to, she was asking about why some people show off and have to have an expensive handbag and things like that. Like what's with that?
A $2,000 Yves Saint Laurent bag.
Right. Ego. I mentioned that before. Maybe it's insecurity, or they just have the money and they're enjoying themselves. But if they're showing it off to you, it's just a simple matter of ego.
I just think it's a little ridiculous to have a $2,000 bag and giving all that money to a company that makes billions of dollars.
I'm going to agree with you once again.
We had one other question that came in from Donna Malik.
Mm-hmm. Donna wanted to share awkward experiences while rolling around in the hay.
Well, this one time at band camp.
This one time in band camp? Do you have a story?
Well, actually, there was a time when I was getting a little frisky with a gentleman.
Yeah, right.
And it was getting actually very frisky. And he fell off the bed and hit his head.
Oh,
He's fine. He's fine. I think he is.
Was it a you had to be there kind of moment?
It was, yeah.
That's good.
And do you have a story, Diane?
As a matter of fact, I do. Years ago, I was in another band, and one of the guys had a New Year's Eve party. Well, there was a girl there that was completely drunk out of her mind, and this was probably like at 2 a.m. at this point. I went into another room, the girl followed me in, and the girl attacked me. I swear to God, this girl attacked me, she had me pinned up against the wall. Tom was in the other room. I'm not into this, and my husband's in the other room. And I had to literally had to peel her off of me.
Oh, wow. That does sound very awkward.
It was an awkward.
Anyway, so speaking of Tom, what are your plans for Valentine's Day?
Ooh, we're gonna have a nice dinner, and then I got him a little something for later on.
Ooh,
Yeah.
nice.
Gonna have us a good time.
Very cute.
Thank you. What are you doing?
Well, I actually have some chocolate sauce in the refrigerator,
There
so
you
if
go.
anybody has any ideas.
Well, that sounds delicious.
Good times.
Good times, everyone. Thank you for watching the show.
Happy Valentine's Day.